Hello everybody, welcome to the video in which I rank the difficulty of the bosses of Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Before we start, please keep in mind that this video is completely my opinion and is in no way objective. Also keep in mind this video excludes all mini-bosses and only covers the main bosses of Sekiro. If you enjoyed this video and would like me to make mini-boss rankings in the future, please let me know in the comments. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. This boss is the Mikolash of Sekiro, except these guys don't really fight back. To give these monkeys some credit though, I actually think there's a lot of creativity behind them, despite the fact I think they don't really deserve a health bar. There are 4 monkeys hidden within the temple, a purple, an orange, a green, and a white one. The NPC at the entrance to the area gives you hints on each one of them, stating that the purple monkey, See No Evil, has fantastic eyesight but poor hearing. The orange is Speak No Evil, has poor vision and hearing but will alert all other monkeys when it spots you. The green monkey is Hear No Evil and has excellent hearing but poor vision. However, the NPC reveals nothing to you about the 4th monkey, the white one, who is invisible and follows you around all the time. He also summons spirit monkeys that will attack and inflict terror on you, the number of them corresponding to how many the folding screen monkeys have been killed at that time. Throughout the map are different rooms, objects, and grapple points that all contain clues on how to kill the different monkeys. One room has a waterfall in it that will deafen anything inside it, and this is a hint to lure the green monkey into there. The only difficulty of this fight can be finding a way to kill the green monkey if you can't lure her into the waterfall room, as he has incredibly good hearing and runs every time you get close. Of course, there are items like gachi and sugar that aid in this, but it's easiest to just get him into the waterfall room. The white monkey becomes pretty obvious once all 4 of the other monkeys are dead because of the constant footsteps you can hear, so this guy shouldn't keep people's heads scratching for too long. All in all, I actually like this boss as a puzzle. It's kind of annoying on repeat playthroughs, but that's all I dislike about it. I just don't think it really deserves a health bar. The one word I can use to describe this fight is therapeutic. There's few things as satisfying as mindlessly ripping and tearing through the old dragons of the tree. I really don't know what to say about this fight. Their attacks involve very awkwardly spewing poison spores at you and occasionally summoning roots from the ground that you can grapple to. These roots can actually be used to get overhead death blows that unleashes what I can only describe as a cataclysmic AoE attack that absolutely decimates this group of gankers. And honestly, that's about it. You get so much time and so many opportunities to heal and kill yourself with their poison that they very rarely punish you for just brainlessly R1 spamming them. And it makes for, as I said, a very therapeutic gank that offers very little difficulty whatsoever. Arguably the most visually stunning boss FromSoft have ever made, the Divine Dragon is yet another therapeutic but very easy boss fight. The gimmick of this fight is to use lightning reversal to, well, reverse the lightning that strikes onto one of the 5 trees in front of the dragon. The lightning strikes on the tree that is glowing yellow, and grappling up to that tree will allow Sekiro to reverse the lightning in a zap cannon that seriously damages the dragon. Amongst all of this, the dragon will try to hit you with 3 different attacks. One of them is a flurry of vertical swings that blows heavy gusts of air towards you that can be dodged simply by strafing left or right. Another is a perilous horizontal swing that has to be jumped over, and the third is a roar in which Sekiro will be thrown backwards so that he's far away from the dragon again. The first phase of the fight is just rinse and repeat. Zap the dragon while avoiding its very easy to dodge attacks until its health bar goes down. Duh. Once phase 2 starts, however, he whips out some very merciless frenzy attacks that need a specific pattern to dodge. Some require jumps, which are perilous ones, some need strafing. Getting the hang of this attack can take some time, but once you have it down, it's a very small waiting game before the dragon gets tuckered out and starts brewing a whirlwind with his sword. This is your opportunity to unleash one final lightning reversal and knock the dragon out. Then you just need to walk up his sword and be given the gracious gift of Tears of the Divine Air. This is another example of one of those bosses that is absolutely phenomenal in terms of appearance and design, yet does not deliver on difficulty. But as I've said before, this does not make the Divine Dragon a bad boss, just a pretty easy one. Although you could argue this boss is pretty good when it comes to lore, nobody can ignore the laziness of its design. We haven't met its OG counterpart in this video yet, but this guy is literally a copy-paste of a boss you've already fought before. Only this time he has much less health and is always in the second segment of the first fight. And it's a gank. That's right, his wife decides to join the fight and make it an incredibly lazy and occasionally infuriating gank fight. Although, I will give it some credit for mixing it up a little bit and also providing that element of surprise. When I fought this guy for the second time, I was not expecting a second ape to come dropping from the ceiling to join the fight with him. Thankfully, both of the apes are quite squishy and can be killed very easily, but due to the nature of the fight, this is made somewhat difficult by the fact that finding windows to get attacks on either of them can be pretty challenging if you don't know what attacks to look for and which to bait before punishing. The wife that joins the fight is an ape constantly in phase 1 of the guardian ape fight, and the actual undead guardian ape is stuck in phase 2. So I suppose it adds variety to a fight that would otherwise be a pretty lazy copy-paste of a boss you've already killed. Normally, making a fight a gank makes a fight infuriatingly difficult or unfair, but I can't say that the addition of the wife adds all that much difficulty. The undead ape has a lot of attacks that can be easily baited and dodged, allowing for some nice windows to get chunks of damage done to either of them, who, as I said, have very small amounts of HP. So slap on that divine confetti, eat that damn sugar, and prepare to kill this ape in a few hits. And not only this, but the wife doesn't actually get summoned until the second segment of Undead Ape, so once she's dead, the fight is pretty much over. And damn, it feels good to finally kill this ape for good. Most people's first real boss of Sekiro is also one of the best, and one that certainly offers a fair amount of difficulty if you haven't been properly introduced to the fast-paced combat system the game has to offer. Gyobu Oniwa is Genichiro Ashina's most trusted Ashina warrior, set to defend Ashina's castle gates atop his Onikage, his trusted horse. Wielding his horn spear, Oniwa rides around the large arena with incredible speed, unleashing somewhat sporadic and hard-hitting slices and swings towards Sekiro. All of his attacks can be parried except for one perilous range attack, but none of this is particularly easy, and we're only on our 11th boss. Staying close to Oniwa and relentlessly hitting him and his horse is a pretty good strategy, but if you're locked onto him, can cause for some awkward camera angles for parrying or blocking incoming attacks, and can absolutely leave you vulnerable to some brutal combos that is almost guaranteed to kill you if you don't safely roll away or parry before the next hit comes. He often runs away from you and stops his horse canter that leaves him vulnerable to grapple over to him, which can often lead to people, myself included, getting greedy and going in for some attacks and getting punished for doing so. This does allow you to keep pace with him though as he's charging around the arena, so this will definitely make the fight easier as you don't have to block or parry his charging attacks that are much harder comparatively. Oniwa definitely requires a little camera management so that you can see what attacks are coming your way. And if you can get good at parrying him, you're rewarded greatly with some stunning him for a few seconds afterwards. All in all, Oniwa does truly feel like a first boss that definitely rewards players that adapt to Sekiro's playstyle by keeping pace with him and staggering his combos. God damn, this boss is just amazing. The second encounter with Genichiro is atop Ashina Castle, and it's an exhilarating, fast-paced fight with another badass samurai. What holds a lot of people back, like myself, when it comes to this boss is likely their muscle memory from Dark Souls. Genichiro is a boss that demands you keep the pressure coming, parrying and Makiri countering everything necessary to really demolish his posture. The thing with Genichiro is that his attacks may not hit your posture very hard, but a lot of his combos can be really long, meaning that the game will require you to nail those parries. Along with this, his attacks are fairly simple, but the length of them alone is enough to add significant difficulty to the fight. He also utilizes something that a boss hasn't really used up until this point, a very powerful ranged weapon. The attacks he releases from his bow can be very quick and can also stun lock you into an unanticipated combo that will most likely kill you. Whether or not you get used to his melee combos, these bow attacks will definitely catch you unawares if you aren't careful. Yet this bow is another reason why keeping pressure on him is a good idea. The less he whips out the bow, the better. Another thing to consider is that there are 2 segments of this first phase alone. On a first playthrough, this part can be a brutal stamina game and is something you will have to slog through every time before finally getting to a second phase where he utilizes the lightning of Tomoe and goes Super Saiyan on your ass. His second phase uses lightning with his sword and his bow to inflict insane damage and shock onto Sekiro if you fail to dodge or get lightning reversal off. I'd argue this Tomoe phase is easier if you can get the lightning nailed, but but if you can't, this phase will punish you even more than the last for failing to keep pressure on him. Though Genichiro definitely lacks the difficulty and brutality of the bosses below him, it's still the first potential war that players will reach in the game, and holds the title as my second favorite boss in Shadows Die Twice. This flatulating big boy monkey is not a boss to scald. This is one of the most sporadic and unpredictable boss fights I've ever encountered in a video game before, and he definitely gave me some trouble on my first playthrough. This ape has attacks that will damage you wherever you are, so don't even try hiding behind him or playing Spider-Man. The best way to deal with him is to watch out for his punches and bait the ones that means he has to recover, the best one being where he flails on the ground for a while before slowly getting back on his knees. Truth be told, there are quite a few attacks like this, and his perilous attacks aren't all that special either, but god damn if he doesn't hit like a bus with his punches and his excrement. I say his perilous attacks aren't all that special, but they can suffer from some bad hitboxes occasionally. So that's it really, just bait the slower punches and avoid his fairly simple attacks and you've got yourself an easy, somewhat short battle. But, of course, in classic FromSoft style, this decapitated behemoth gets straight back up and comes at you with an even more sporadic and unpredictable second phase. This time, he has a sword. Some could argue the introduction of the sword actually makes the fight easier, and honestly, I would agree, as this means his attacks can be blocked and most importantly, parried. There are a few ones that this monkey does not want you to parry, like a massive overhead swing that will stagger him for a few seconds, allowing a window for some big damage. There are also a few easy to bait attacks, like one where if there's a lot of distance between you and him, he'll dive at you and do a right to left swing of the sword that can simply be avoided by just strafing to the right. The element of surprise this fight gives you when he gets straight back up and into his second phase is amazing and makes him one of the most memorable and coolest bosses in the game in my opinion. This is said while ignoring the stupid attack where he screams and inflicts terror on you. I'm not a fan of bosses that inflict damage like Curse and Terror that instantly kills you, and this AoE is such a pain in the ass if he decides he wants to just do nothing but spam it. His damage numbers and crazy distance coverage in the first phase is enough to put the Guardian Ape at number 9. If you choose to obey the Iron Code and forsake Kuro on top of Ashina Castle, Emma will not take this lightly and will attempt to kill you. This fight really feels similar to Genichiro's, but the difference is Genichiro wasn't stood there throwing Ashina arts and Jujitsu slams your way. Seriously, I suck at dodging that grab attack so much it actually makes me cry inside every time it hits me. But also similarly to Genichiro, the Gentle Blade will require you to keep the pressure on and deflect her counters. Despite how much I emphasize the importance of pressure on the way of Tomoe fight, that is nothing in comparison to what it is here. Closing the distance on Emma is definitely no easy task, as she can close the distance on you incredibly quickly with attacks that have damage scaled for endgame and then quickly jump away. And I'm pretty sure she's programmed to punish healing, so good luck getting that done. Keeping pace with her while also parrying and dodging as she's sliding around the arena deploying Ashina arts is definitely a difficult challenge, and I can often find myself dying to getting stun locked and punished for trying to heal. Once the distance is closed and you've got her deflecting, just keep that pressure on and don't suck at dodging the perilous like I do. And you should have yourself a fairly short fight. But obviously, I can't just say the fight is easy, because it's not. Fighting such a nimble opponent like Emma and a mini-boss like Orin of the Water is definitely one of the toughest things in a game like Sekiro, and can make the initial engagement and the beginning of the counter a very tough slog. Although this boss is truly only one segment, there's another 2-segment, very difficult fight that comes later in the video straight afterwards, and you have to kill Emma every time if you die to the one after her. And all of this, in my opinion, is enough to make a pretty challenging fight, and one that definitely rewards aggression. This boss was definitely the first one that had me stuck for a while. The difficulty of this boss depends a lot on which point of the game you fight her at. If you decide to fight her early like I did on my first playthrough, you are going to be stuck with very low posture versus an extremely quick, agile, and hard-hitting boss. Honestly, it sometimes feels like she never stops with her damn throwing knives and combos. Like, seriously, give me a break! Her monstrous health bar means that low attack power is undoubtedly going to result in an arduous fight that continues even after this first one has been completely dissipated. underrated. Her strategic combinations of throwing knives and very fast melee swings makes nailing parries and managing posture to be an extremely difficult thing, as all she does is jumps away from you. She has some perilous attacks that hit you for 80% of your health and are very difficult to dodge or deflect, and also cannot be Mikiri countered, so definitely watch out for those. One useful thing to know if you're struggling with the attacks where she jumps into the rafters is the use of the throwing shuriken prosthetic. They will stagger her and throw her back to the floor where you can sprint over and keep the pressure on her. This is definitely a boss that will teach you how to play the game if you still don't know how to do it after Juzal the Drunkard, and she will introduce you to the fundamentals of patterns and rhythm. When phase 2 begins, she starts summoning illusions that will slowly approach you and try to hit you with halberds. These are never normally a problem and can be killed either by using snap seeds or by slicing them in one hit. And this is good to do because after a while, Lady Butterfly will click her fingers again, which will turn all remaining spirits into magic orbs that can't be blocked. Easiest way to avoid these is just by standing behind a pillar, but this can be difficult if Lady Butterfly is close to you. Other than this, she adds some magic orbs to a lot of her previously punishable attacks that really narrow down how many windows you have that don't involve absorbing damage simultaneously. So the goal is to dodge those orbs and, this is going to sound very familiar, keep the unrelenting pressure on her. Once you dissipate her 2 monstrous health bars and posture meters, it leads to probably one of the most satisfying kills in Sekiro, and Lady Butterfly will remain one of the most memorable bosses in the game for me. This is a boss that I've come to love more that I play the game. The Corrupted Monk is a true test on how many attacks you can parry in one combo before finding a window to regenerate posture. The Corrupted Monk is one of the few bosses that forces you to really mix up your dodging techniques. A lot of their combos can be parried, but their perilous attacks can be punished by a mixture of either Mikiri counters or making distance by jumping away and retaliating as soon as possible. With very few windows to really deal any significant damage to the boss, this fight relies heavily on posture and parries. Not only that, but you've got 2 segments to slog through before the parasite within is revealed in the 3rd. I enjoy this boss so much because nothing about any of their combos feels unfair, and they're amongst the most satisfying in the game to fully nail, especially with the ones that end in Mikiri counters. After the first 2 segments, the monks goes into some Murgo's wet nurse nightmare phase and summons many clones of itself to come and attack Sekiro. I'm not sure what the intended strategy for this is really, but I just became Spider-Man, noticed that worked most of the time, and decided to continue doing that. Once the centipede is revealed, it switches up its attacks a little bit, like introducing the spinning attack that the false Corrupted Monk used previously in the game and spewing terror acid at you. This phase is probably easier because it has so many more opportunities to get actual vitality damage done to the monk, and although the spinning attack may seem intimidating, the timings and audio cues mean that it's far from the hardest to nail. The overall bulk and the potential DPS of the Corrupted Monk does make for a very difficult fight, and it is an amazing one that forces you to switch up all dodging styles in order to be victorious. Before I actually talk about the fight, can I just say that every time I hear this soundtrack, I can't help but think of our old friend Pinwheel from Dark Souls. Alright, sorry. Onto the boss. If you choose to disobey the Iron Code and stay loyal to Kuro, you skirmish with your own reluctant father atop Ashina Castle. Owl never makes me feel very good about parrying attacks because I feel like his swings hit so hard my tears fly out anyway. On paper, this boss is pretty simple, another one that says hit your parries and profit, but he has a lot of other things in his arsenal that adds a substantial amount of difficulty to the fight, like green smoke balls that have a very ungenerous area of effect that will prevent you from using any vitality recovery items for a while, as well as infrequent use of the shinobi firecrackers. The use of the green healing orb often leaves him open for punishment, but carelessness will absolutely mean that the ungenerous area of effect will hit you and mean bad business for the future of the fight. You definitely want to be full health for maximum posture recovery potential because, as I said, god damn, his attacks will cripple your posture, even if parried. Once the first segment is over, he'll trick you into giving him mercy and then suddenly jump back up with an even more extended plethora of weapons to use against you, like smoke bombs and poison. The smoke bombs will unlock your camera from him, and although he rarely attacks you during it, it can mean you can get hit by an attack that you were lucky to ever see coming. He replaces the shurikens he uses in segment 1 with a spew of poison fluid that will leave a smog of toxic there for a short time, completely barring you from using that area of the arena unless you're alright with tanking the DOT. And if you happen to get caught by that anti-heal orb in the second segment, it's now completely incurable, so it's even more essential to nail the dodge and only punish that if you feel it is absolutely safe. There's a couple of attacks like the firecrackers and the rolling jump rolling jump? Does that make sense? And these can be somewhat easily step dodged behind to get some vitality damage done to him, and those are the best ones to look out for if you really want to whittle his health down a bit. His combos are almost never the same, so the game wants you to react instead of just memorize, which I really like. All in all, this encounter with Owl is definitely a tough fight with some of the hardest hitting combos in the game, but it's still easier comparatively to his other encounter. If you struggled with the Grid Shinobi atop Ashina Castle, then you're in for an even tougher time with this encounter. Although it's a reskin, FromSoft gave this encounter of Owl so many new and different attacks while also intertwining them with previous combinations from the previous fight, your muscle memory from the previous one will often overtake you and will very often confuse you. The importance of lowering his health have shifted, and it's become much more important than before as his posture regenerates extremely quickly while his vitality is any more than 70%. The arena is much bigger this time, and to compensate for this, Owl now has many attacks that he can close the distance on you, like a perilous charge attack that can be Mercury countered and, though it's more scarcely used here, the rolling jump. However, his use of firecrackers and the healing orb does not decrease in all amongst these new combinations. You still have to watch for the older ones as I mentioned before. He now also conjures fireballs occasionally and flings them at you pretty often, and if you can't use a pillar due to positioning, this can be very tough to get around. The firecracker attack can be a nice one to punish by dodging left and getting a few hits in, and the slam is just the same as before. And all of this is only segment 1. Once you slog through the first health bar, you have to deal with him becoming invisible as he summons a spirit owl that joins him for the fight. Although it's not that much of a nuisance, it occasionally does perilous explosions that will catch you off guard if you're too focused on Owl. Some of your older attack windows are now voided as well, as he often goes invisible during those times. Almost like FromSoft knew what attacks we would punish and just gave us the middle finger. Adding everything together, this second encounter with Owl is a very demanding one that really forces you to mix up your dodge patterns and experiment with attack windows, all while remembering the importance of dealing actual vitality damage to him. Coming straight after Emma the Gentle Blade, the Lord Ishin Ashina himself comes face to face with the Shura Sekiro. This fight also shares a few similarities with the one before it, like the Ashina arts that he'll constantly throw in your direction, but these are now packaged into a boss fight that takes much less punishment from being constantly pressured. While some attacks like the use of the Ichimonji double can be easily punishable by either parrying or dodging behind and unleashing an Ichimonji of your own, it's the massive range of combos that Ishin has access to that'll make this fight very challenging. Honestly, for a number 3 boss, his first segment shouldn't take all that much getting used to if close attention is paid to his attacks and his combos, some of which changing midway through after having identical first swipes to some of his others. Once the first segment is over, however, he completely changes his fighting style and transforms into some sort of fiery Tomoe. This phase can be best explained as one that hits extremely hard but has attacks that are pretty well telegraphed. Despite this, there's a lot of pressure on the player after going through Emma and Ishin's first segment that can often make even the easiest of attacks tough to dodge, and they can be lethal. He now utilizes even more Ashina arts, like one where he turtles up and unleashes a spherical death ball around him, and another where he stabs the ground and throws a massive wave of fire towards Sekiro that is not easily avoided. His Ichimonji double that you might have made the habit of punishing in segment 1 now often changes to a single and then a hard to deflect horizontal fire swing. Lowering his vitality is almost as important as it is in Owl's second encounter, and obviously all this time there are sugars to help do that, but the fact that this brutal 2-segment fight is straight after an already fairly challenging boss, it all adds up to make a very difficult slog, but a damn satisfying kill as well. Oh boy, here we go. This is the one boss in Sekiro that you can really play against like it's Dark Souls. The patented glue yourself to the crotch and mindlessly swing strategy. Minus the mindlessly swinging part. The demon has so many ways of retaliating when you're down at its crotch, like stomping a few times, jumping backwards, jumping directly into the air, or unleashing a perilous charge attack after turning towards you quickly. The foot stomps are easy enough to dodge, but it's made more difficult by the demon's constant tracking. You could be anticipating a stomp from where his foot is now, but since he turns towards you constantly, his foot can be coming from somewhere slightly different. I know this has caught me off guard many times, as well as other people, but I don't have as much trouble with this now as I used to. There are a lot of attacks even scarier than this that still get me to this day, like one where he throws fireballs at you with his arm. He often does this attack as a follow-up to one of the charges, which I always like to charge into myself, because more often than not, I'm close enough to him to punish it with a few hits. But when I'm not and he's too far away from me, I couldn't for the life of me find the right position to be when he threw them, and sometimes even got caught in the second set that he throws if you charge in too soon. His hardest hitting attack is one where he jumps into the air and cannonballs back onto the ground, unleashing a massive fire AoE. Thankfully, this attack has very obvious tells and is very generous with it, so you shouldn't really be getting hit by it. You can also grapple to him through the pushback gusts to quickly punish for a couple of hits. My favorite attack to punish is the circular swing he does with his arm before slamming it onto the ground. Just a simple dodge forward and you can punish for 4 or 5 sword swings. Oh yeah, and do not discredit the amount of bulk this guy has. It's a 3-segment fight and each segment feels like it takes 100 sword swings to get through, because good luck getting his posture down enough. The charge used to give me trouble on my first and second playthroughs because I always used to dodge as my failsafe from playing so much Dark Souls. Once you get the hang of just jumping away, that attack becomes no problem. Until, of course, the second 2 segments. Segment 2 has a few mix-ups to the attacks that will absolutely catch you off guard. For example, he can actually charge at you twice, or follow up on one of them by going full Manus with his arm and unleashing a wave of fire that I still don't know how to dodge consistently. His third and final segment has him take full advantage of that suspiciously girthy arm of his, and he'll start aimlessly swinging it around to create his own arena for you, a burning ring of fire. Other than that, it's pretty identical to the second segment, and providing you're close to him, this Ring of Fire attack shouldn't hit you. This is a very interesting boss for Sekiro because rather than have you parry and reflect and focus on posture more than anything, it teaches you to actually dodge and really nail the timings for a boss that might have the most wide range of attacks in the whole game. And the Demon of Hatred sits very happily as being the second hardest boss in Sekiro for me. Oh, and by the way, I stream a lot of Sekiro and Soulsborne over at my Twitch at twitch.tv/mynameiscosmic, and I'd love to see you there. Links in the description. Thank you. The boss holding the title as the hardest and also my favorite in the whole game is Isshin, the Sword Saint. I don't think I can think of a single problem with this fight. Everything about it is absolutely fantastic, and it's definitely in my top 3 favorite bosses that FromSoft have ever made. Let's talk about this entire fight. It starts off fighting Genichiro, Way of Tomoe, with the second Mortal Blade. At this point in the game though, he shouldn't be much trouble at all, and that fight is only 1 segment. Then from his neck comes the Sword Saint himself, a whole second phase to the fight that has 3 segments, equating to a 4-segment battle. The first segment has you battle a true master of the Ashina arts, unleashing crazy attacks like the Ichimonji double, the Ashina cross at varied intervals, and a few others that have crazy range and devastating damage and all require different versions of dodging. The first segment means he does quite a few forward lunges that always follow the exact same push that can make for an easy Makiri counter. And here we are once again with another boss that is made easiest by keeping the pressure on. And it is even more important in this first segment than it is in Genichiro and Ella. The easiest attacks he uses to deflect are definitely his counters when you're close to him, so you always want to be taking full advantage of this and stun locking him as much as possible. Once the first segment is over, he will stay with his sword mode as long as you keep him stun locked, so absolutely be sure to keep him in this phase as long as you can before he whips out the spear, because when this phase starts, take everything I just said and put it in the bin. These last 2 segments has him wielding both a sword and a spear and adds a massive plethora of new things to watch out for when it comes to his attacks. He becomes much more aggressive, has insanely long combos, can reach to what feels like the other side of the arena with his spear, can shoot you with his gun, and can close the distance on you almost instantly with calamitous slam attacks that he's programmed to use if you try to heal. Getting really good at parrying his massive selection of mixed and matched combos from his sword and his spear is absolutely the hardest thing I have ever experienced in this game, and I am still not good at it. In amongst all of this, he still utilizes some of the most lethal Ashina arts that seem to reach across continents, and even then it's still not over, because in the final segment he throws in lightning attacks into the mix that come at you in such ways that lightning reversal is made much harder than that versus Genichiro. All of this accompanied by an absolutely gorgeous arena, fantastic score, and a beautiful setting makes this one of my favorite bosses by FromSoft and undoubtedly my favorite in Sekiro. Nothing about this fight ever feels unfair like Orphan of Kos, and I praise this fight for everything it offers. And you should be very proud of yourself if you ever end up slaying this Sword Saint. Alright everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like if you think it's deserving of one, and let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my rankings. And as I said before, if you would like to watch some Sekiro speedruns in the future or some Soulsborne challenge runs, you can head over to my Twitch. I'll leave the link in the description, and I'd love to see you there. Thanks again for watching everybody, I'll see you all next time.